Hey folks, today we're going to talk about a interesting topic on the minds of all buyers in Miami, whether you're buying a condo or a house, and that is, will future construction and oversupply in the Miami real estate market affect my ability to sell at a reasonable price or get out even in the future? And this is a great question because we've had clients ask us this recently. They agree that the Miami market is hot. There's a lot of inflow and such, but Miami has historically been a boom and bust town in terms of the real estate cycle. As you may know, it's a very different real estate market versus New York, where there's a lot more historical districts, zoning protections and such. Plus, Manhattan has much more limited land, and you can't really just go build a new skyscraper so easily in the middle of the West Village. And people do like the historical nature of the architecture in New York. But here in Miami, there's not so much in terms of historical districts to speak of. I mean, there's you could say the Art Deco district in Miami Beach, something like that. Maybe the Biltmore Hotel. But there's not so much of historical districts to sort of landmark and preserve as much as some older cities like New York. And zoning is a lot more lax here in terms of what you can build, how high you can build and such, which is why when you look around in Miami, there's so much new construction. And for developers, it's pretty much as long as they can buy out all the lots that are adjacent to each other, big enough to build a tower, and they can buy it out for say a couple hundred price per square foot, and then they can sell it for 800 price per square foot. They'll keep doing that until it doesn't work anymore. So to answer your question, yes, historically that has happened, and you've seen that in past cycles in Miami. Prices are elevated. There's a boom. You last saw this in the sort of 04 to 06, 07 cycle. Prices are high and people keep building, and eventually there is a oversupply, a deluge, and then demand can't keep up, and a variety of other reasons happen obviously in the last cycle. But you eventually have demand outstripping supply, and then there's a crash in prices. So and then after that happens, of course, the depressed pricing disincentivizes developers from building, and then it's almost like the sort of the oil and gas or natural resources cycle. Then this disincentive creates a standstill in new construction, and then years go by, and then demand catches up, and there's a surge, and then suddenly there's a dearth or a lack of housing, and then prices go up, and then again when prices go up, they then incentivize developers to start building again. But that's the sort of the normal, typical cycle. So in a nutshell, yes, I mean, that can happen. Of course, if you keep building and building, at some point, you're going to have too much supply. Now, do we think the Miami market is going to go the way of, say, the property market in China, where there are, zombie cities or ghost cities and there's just so much construction? I don't think it's a comparable market. I mean, the United States has no capital controls for one. It's a very different sort of It's not really an apple to apples comparison. I mean, we this is a free market. There's free exchange of capital in and out, and the government isn't here in the U.S. propping up real estate by any means necessary. So, in the short term, as you can see in Miami in the early 2020s, so like 2021, 2022, and going forward 2023, you see what's happening now. I mean, clearly the market speaks for itself, and demand, and this is even during the pandemic, completely domestic from the Northeast, from places like New York, lots of New Yorkers coming down, people from the West Coast. So domestic migration has completely outstripped supply. So, and you still see that today, as of this filming in early 2022, demand outstrips supply. There's very little inventory. And to exacerbate this problem, sure, there are new construction projects popping up. You see it in the news and such. But there are delays, right? So due to supply chain delays, that affects, of course, the home building, the new construction market. I mean, things take longer to get built. For example, very close by in Miami here, You have the, for example, the Missoni Baya building, a beautiful new construction. We heard 2022, Q1, then like 2022 first half for it to be completed, and we can actually see the building, and it still looks uncompleted. So we hope they finish on time, but there are certainly been delays, and there are other projects that are market themselves pre-construction as, say, like, for example, our reserve, it'll be completed in 2024, it's in or 2026 or whatever it may be. But these projects, even pre-COVID, pre these supply chain issues, I mean, they often take quite a bit longer than expected. So yes, there is new supply, but it takes time to get on the market, and oftentimes, as a buyer, you need a place to live, right? So it's oftentimes more relevant to look at what's actually on the market, what's available, versus sort of trying to predict too long term, because with the situation with very limited supply, and if you choose to rent instead, that can work. But in a very tight market, as you're seeing, you can see rents double. So that can be very painful in the short term as well. So in summary, I mean, this was, again, this is one of our videos that are all impromptu and non-scripted. So we hope you found this helpful. But, in summary, to answer your question, yes, there are less zoning restrictions. So basically less prohibitions from developers to buy up lots and just be able to build in Miami versus other older cities like New York. There are fewer historical districts here in Miami that are landmark and such that prevent additional or new construction. So there is a lot more opportunity to build, but on the other hand, there are supply chain constraints, and projects just take generally longer than advertised anyway. So as you can see in the current market, there is a supply-demand imbalance heavily in favor of sellers. So there's a very, very little inventory on the market currently. And, if you are to make a decision, you're thinking long term, one thing we like to say is if you're especially concerned about the supply dynamics out into the future, you fast forward 5, 6, 10 years, and it's time for you to sell, and you're worried about oversupply in the future, hurting your ability to get out at the same price, for example, or whatever price you want. Well, one thing that you could perhaps try to do then is, just like in stocks, try to pick something with a defensible moat, as Warren Buffett likes to say. So, for example, in real estate, Miami real estate, a defensible moat might be a high floor unit with direct ocean views, or direct bay views, but that's ocean front, directly on the water, so nobody can block your view. Things like that, or like a relatively new building, nice amenities, great location, close to Design District, Midtown, Wynwood, which is, by the way, surrounds this neighborhood called Edgewater, which we are very bullish on. It's very centrally located, amazing views, and the Edgewater borders Design District, Wynwood, and Midtown. Sorry. So great location. There's like Whole Foods coming up. There's a Trader Joe's, and there's lots of new construction as well, especially on the water. So if you really want ocean views, you can literally be on a very new building, as long as you're on the 30th floor or higher, roughly, you can actually see the ocean, because South Beach is pretty sort of low built, the zoning's a little bit lower, so you can see over South Beach, and you can see the ocean, beautiful bay views. It's far up north enough where you have like a wide open bay view, because if you're further down in downtown, for example, or Brickell, you can have bay views too, but then you have the Venetian Islands, you have the cruise ship terminals and the Port of Miami and such, kind of cluttering your view in the waterway there. So yeah, I mean, these are all things to think about, and of course people have different preferences and such. But yeah, try to, if this is a concern of yours, talk to us, send us an email, team@hauseit.com, HAUSEIT.com. Our experienced buyer's agents here in Florida can chat with you directly and sort of give you advice on what to look for, maybe send you listings and such. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Look for stuff with the defensible moat if you are concerned. And of course, try to get in at a good price. That's always important, as people say. You make money on the way in, on your acquisition price. And of course, one way to reduce your acquisition price is to reduce your closing costs and get some of the buyer agent commission back, which we can help you with our Hauseit buyer closing credit program, where we can give you 2/3 of the buyer agent commission, subject to our brokerage taking keeping 1% or $7,500 as of this writing, $7,500 as of this writing as a minimum. And yeah, that's pretty much it. And if you want to sell, we can help you save 6% with our agent-assisted FSBO listing service. And we also have a more hands-on 1% for full service listing option. And right now we cover both New York and Florida. In New York, we cover New York City, Long Island, Hudson Valley. In Florida, we cover all of Southeast Florida, including Miami-Dade County, where we're headquartered, Broward County, Palm Beach County, Martin County, and St. Lucie counties. My name is Chris at Hauseit, and we'll see you on the next one.